Do this. All right, I'm gonna start by I'm gonna start by clipping some of the beads off of the darts. So sewing this, I'm gonna sew the darts first. You can see here are the darts, the slits. I'm gonna sew that, but because it's like a lot of these beads here, I'm gonna clip some of those off with my snippers so that I can sew without the beads breaking. So I'll start with that. Not a whole lot, just a little. And you know, I don't have a problem making a mess because I sweep every hour on the hour. I feel like, you know how churches or Catholic churches or Christian churches, whatever churches, there's a bell that rings on the hour, like that ding, ding, every hour. I always grew up in church, so I'm familiar with the ding. Either way, I feel like when I'm sewing, I hear that ding every hour. Like, even if I'm not looking at the clock, I'm like, oh, I need to sweep. Because I literally deal with like clipping beads or threads all day, every day. So I just always throw it on the floor because I know I'm going to sweep within the next 30 minutes to 40 minutes. But yeah, like I said, I am just snipping off the beading before I sew the darts down. This is like a heavily beaded dress, so it's a really beautiful lace. So what I'm basically doing is, because this part is going to be on the inside of the dress, I'm just clipping it so that when my needle goes over it, it doesn't break my needle. And of course, if you have any questions about sewing, stuff like this, feel free to let me know. I wish I could show you what this dress is going to look like, but once I sew the sides together, I'm going to show you what this looks like on the mannequin. It's a really gorgeous dress that I'm making. So like I said before, I'm just clipping the beading off of the darts with my snippers so that it doesn't break while I am sewing. So I'm just going through about a ½ inch out, like a ½ inch from here. That way my needle doesn't break along the seam, and my seams are usually a ½ inch. I just always keep them standard ½ inch for everything I do, pretty much. So now that that's clipped all throughout there, I am going to start sewing that dart. All right, and because I've been sewing so long, don't be like me, but I usually don't put darts in. I mean, not darts. I usually don't put pins in when I'm sewing because I just use my like notches to know whether I'm in the right place. So if you see, I don't know if you can see, but if you see I clipped a notch here, that's how I know I'm at the middle of the dart, and then the point at the end, that's how I know that I'm at the end of it. But yeah, so I don't use pins because I'm always trying to save time. And I'm always going to back stitch and forward stitch before I finish and begin every seam. I always back stitch and forward stitch over the top and the bottom of every stitch I do. And I always clip my threads before and after every stitch. That's how you don't end up with a whole bunch of threads everywhere. You should be clipping your stitches as you go. For me, I'm very anal about that. I remember when I was in college for fashion design, I had a teacher who literally would say every 5 seconds, like, clip as you go, clip as you go, clip as you go. And now every time I sew, it's the same thing. Like, I have to clip as I go. And when I'm teaching students, same thing. I'm telling them you need to be clipping your threads as you go. If you finish, or when you finish sewing a garment, you should have no more threads to clip, because you should have been clipping as you go all along. If when you finish a garment, it's a mess and there's threads everywhere, and then you have to go back over the whole thing, every little stitch that you made, and clip your threads, that's really bad. You need to be clipping as you go. So right now I am just cutting the beads off around the dart that I am sewing. That way, as I sew my dart, I am not going to break my needle on any of these beads. Some people like to break these with a hammer. It's not that deep to me. I can just easily clip. Plus, this is like a fairly small area. That's probably why it's not that deep to me. Because this is not a huge piece of the inseam. This is just a dart. But yeah, so for this, I just clip with my snippers. I'm clipping the beads off around a 1/2 inch around my dart. And then I'll show you what this front piece looks like when we're finished. But literally, I'm just grazing it on the side. Like on the side of, if you can see this, like I'm putting my snipper around that little beaded section, and I'm just doing that to clip it off. Nothing crazy. So again, let me just push this. And again, I'm only doing about a 1/2 inch out from the dart, because that is my seam allowance. My seam allowance is a 1/2 inch. So I'm just clipping the beading a 1/2 inch around that seam that I'm going to sew down. And that just ensures that I don't break any of my needles. If I was in a rush and I didn't want to do that, I would just kind of sew with either beading or leather needle, something really thick that's not going to break as easily. But because I'm using a universal needle right now, I just wanted to make sure that I snip those beads off first. Also, like I said before, I am just going ahead and using the dart itself to sew it down instead of pinning it. I also clip notches. If you can see this notch right here, this notch tells me that this is the center of my dart. So that's where I know I need to go in at my diamond shape and go back out. So I'm just using the notches as my guide in the dart cut itself. So I'm setting that up there. And then again, I always forward and back stitch before I go forward and go all the way down. I'm always going to back stitch and then go forward. Now, if you've never done a dart or sewed a dart, I can do a bigger video just on that. But for now, I'm just sewing all together. If anybody is asking me questions or anything, I cannot see it because I am sewing. Oh, somebody said hi. Jackson said hi. Hi. So when I'm sewing this dart, I'm just literally moving my seam inward to outward. It's literally like a diamond shape. I don't know if you can see like the shape of the inside of the snippers. That's the shape of a dart, but in half. So I'm literally just going down and then over on my stitch. So if you see, the fabric will go in and then out on the side. That's because that's the diamond shape of the dart. And as you see, my needle is not breaking because I clipped my beads off before I started. And I'm just using the end of the dart to know where to stop. Again, I'm just clipping as I go. Okay, so let me see if I can show you. If you can see here, all right, so this piece, if you can see, can you see these two darts here that I did? I hope you can see these two darts. So if you see it here, this dart where it's folded, that's the dart that I did on one side, and the dart that I did on the other side. And that just brings in the waist to give you that hourglass shape. But if you can see the design of this lace and the beading on this lace, it's really heavy beading. So that's why I had to go ahead and clip it off around where I sewed. But the darts on here are beautiful so far. So now that I did the darts on the front, now I'm going to go to our back piece. And we're going to look for our darts, and they're over here. So on our back piece, now I'm going to clip around these darts and sew these darts together. And once I'm finished that, I'm going to put on the sleeve. Now I'll just walk you through quickly how to do that as well. All right, so I'm just going in again and just promptly clipping off the beading around those darts. Like I said, I clip off the beads a 1/2 inch out because that is my seam allowance, and you just want to clip to wherever your seam allowance is. You don't need to go any further because you want the beads outside of the seam that are shown on the front and back to still be there. So only clip what you're going to be sewing over with your needle. I don't know if y'all can hear can y'all hear my background noise? The YouTube commercial that's playing in the background with Kamala Harris. I don't know if y'all can hear that. It's, okay, now it's back to my regular peaceful, calming background noise music. I don't know if y'all can hear that. But yeah, so I'm just clipping off these beads around the seam allowance with my snippers. Going up the other side. And I'm only clipping what is going to possibly go under my needle. About a 1/2 inch or 5/8 out from that seam. Now when I get to the sleeve, I will pin it, and I'll show you how I pin it. This is a one shoulder dress, so the sleeve on here is only going to be on one side. I'll show you how I pin that on and how I look for that. I usually try to use as little pins as necessary because I'm always trying to just quickly get to the point. But which is why I said earlier that I use notches a lot more than pins, just to know that I'm in the right place. Okay. And your darts should always fade in to be nothing. So once you point it off, it should be like a nice slow fade. And again, like I was saying earlier, you need to be clipping as you go. Clip all your threads after each stitch that you do. Now this is our last dart, so we're just going to do this one more time and clip our beads away from our dart at a 1/2 inch. And literally I'm just brushing it gently with the snippers, and then just kind of like pulling it off, if you can see that there. Wait until you see how this dress looks at the end. It's a stunning dress. The fabric is so beautiful. And I will show you at the end. But yeah, we want to keep it consistent. So I'm doing the same thing for each dart, front and back. We want the front to look just as beautiful as the back. Okay. I probably should have took the camera downstairs when I was cutting out the pattern for this dress so that y'all could see how quickly and easily I was able to cut the pattern for the front and the back. But I'll definitely do that for my next video. Again, I'm literally just putting my snippers around the bead and then quickly just brushing them off like that. All right, and now that that is good, I'm going to start from the top of my dart here. And like I said, I have notches in here so I can see what is the top, middle, and bottom of the dart. And I always start about a 1/2 inch above where the dart opens. All right, and I always kind of readjust as I go, because I like to just make sure everything. Okay. All right, so now that we have clipped our threads on front and back, now I'm going to put the shoulder together before I put the sleeve. Look at this beautiful trim on this lace, on this beaded lace, you guys. Like I said, wait until you see this on the mannequin, because it is stunning. Okay, so if you know when you are putting any garment together, it's right sides together or outsides together. So that means that the beading, which is the outside, needs to be facing each other. Okay, kissing. The outside needs to be kissing. The insides need to be facing the outer part. So this is the shoulder. I'm going to sew that shoulder together. Now this shoulder is actually not going to be seen. That's why I have that lace edge there. Yep, so this is actually not going to be seen once it's all said and done. But that middle part, right, where the shoulder seam is right here, that's where I'm going to attach the sleeve. So instead of putting the side seams together, I'm actually going to start by putting the sleeve, attaching the sleeve into the shoulder seam. Now, how we're going to start that is we're going to get my sleeve piece. So here's the sleeve. If you can see how the top of the sleeve looks, this is the shape of the top of a sleeve. That's that there. Beautiful lace sleeve. So what I'm going to start by doing is putting a pin in the middle of the sleeve where the curve is at the top. All right, so that's, again, outsides facing each other. Now that point where the curve is at the top of the sleeve, I'm going to pin that to the center of the shoulder seam, on the top, okay? Now, if you look where the sleeve goes over, I'm going to pin that edge to the outer edge of here, which is that side seam on the back, and on the other side I'm going to pin it to the side seam of the front, which is right here, you guys. So we're going to pin our side seams to the sides of our sleeve. This is basically the armpit area, okay, on both sides. So you see the armpit area up to the shoulder, then down to the armpit area. All right. Now in the middle of that, we're going to go with our curve and we're going to pin that middle section. So how many pins is this so far? 1, 2, 3. It's going to end up being 5 pins. Pretty much how I like it. Now, one thing I'm going to do is make sure all that lines up, but you can still stretch as you're sewing. There's a couple areas where I want to just kind of dust the beads off so that I don't break my needle. Again, I'm going to do this with most of the seams so that I make sure my needles don't break. You know that the beading is pretty heavy. So I'm just giving it a nice little dusting to take some of those beads off. Again, some people like breaking these with a hammer. It has never been that deep for me, and watch me be the one that actually like knocks off my whole finger by trying to hammer one little bead. I would be the one to do that. I'm not even taking that risk. So anyway, I just did a light dusting, taking some of that beading off, and now we're going to sew that sleeve into that seam. We're going to back stitch and then we're going to forward stitch. Now keep in mind, this is either going to get either a serge hem or some type of lining in here on this seam too when it's all said and done. All right, so now we're going to again clip your threads as you go. After each stitch, you need to clip the first stitch and the last stitch. Now we're going to take our pins out of our sleeve. And I can tell you already that sleeve is perfect because it's by me. Okay, so look, now that sleeve, this is the shoulder seam right here, and this is the sleeve. Look at that sleeve, beautiful, beautiful sleeve. All right, so now we're gonna flip that inside out, and we're gonna sew it all the way down from the sleeve, all the way down from the sleeve to the armpit right here. And then we're going to take that all the way down to the hem of the dress. Now this is like a midi length dress. Just so you know, I am pinning it at the armpit so that that sleeve stays in a perfect spot. Now could I do a dusting here of the beading? I certainly could and should, but I'm gonna lightly just sew over it all the way down, see how it goes. If it breaks my needle, then we learned a lesson, didn't we? Oh, first I'm going to rethread my bobbin because it ran out of thread. And one of the things that most people hate is when it runs out while they're sewing, so I'm glad it let me finish my last stitch before it did that to me. And now I'm stepping on the pedal with my foot and threading the bobbin right here. Okay, we're threading the bobbin. And I'm gonna let that in a second. Okay, so once it stops threading it anymore, then we're gonna just clip that off with our snippers. Push that back over. This is the Brother Project Runway. I don't even know if they sell this thing anymore. When you put your bobbin in, I don't know if y'all do this, but it should be the shape of a P. Like your thread should be on that side, the left side. Then you take it through. It rips off there. I know most people have singers. I have a singer as well. I'm just working on the Brother today. And I'm just threading that. And then put my foot down as I thread the needle. And you could also clip this. If you clip on an angle, this is what I usually do. I clip on the angle. You'll have a better cut for your thread. It'll go through a lot faster, easier. If you clip it on a, not sideways, but like a slanted angle. Okay, so now this is the wrist of the sleeve, and I'm just taking it all the way from the wrist of the sleeve down to the armpit, all the way then down to the side seam of the dress. Also, I'm keeping the seam at about a 1/2 inch. I'm always looking at these lines over here just to make sure I'm on the right track. See, we're passing this pin right here. This pin is the armpit. So that means that we're finishing our sleeve, and I'm just kind of flattening out all those hems together. And you see, that's because I hit a bead. So if I had dusted that, that wouldn't happen. Like if you watched when we did the darts, that didn't happen because I clipped all those beads off. Here, I'm being lazy. So if my needle breaks, it's because I made the wrong decision. Stuff like this, I'll go ahead and clip. I don't even want those problems, right? So I could just dust a couple pieces now. Because do I feel like getting more needles today? Not really. So just did a little dusting of the beads. I'm going to take that all the way down. Now this is in real time. Right now, what are we on? 31 minutes to make a full dress. Of course, it's not finished, but 31 minutes so far. I think it'll be finished within an hour. We'll see. As I go down, I'm always readjusting. If you wanted to put pins throughout the whole dress before, that would work. I have pins all over my table. I don't know why. I'm just being lazy and not putting those pins in the dress. But we want to see how this dress progresses. Back stitching before I finish that stitch. I'm going to clip as I go, which means I'm going to clip that bottom hem. I'm going to take out this dart. This pin, take out this pin, and then I'm going to clip the thread that was at the very top. Now on the other side, I'm going to start below the armpit, actually probably just at the hip, because the zipper is going to be on the side. The zipper is going to be on the side because it's a one shoulder dress, so she needs room to get in. I'm going to pin it here, if you see my pin there, and this I'm leaving unstitched because this is where the zipper is going to go. So from here down, I'm going to sew because that is where the zipper will end. And I'm going to start from this hem. Now this fabric has this really pretty lace hem, which I love, a beautiful lace detail trim, because then I don't have to do a hem, because we're going to let the beautiful fabric do its thing. Let me just make sure. Perfect. And again, I'm using the lines here to make sure that my seam allowance is always a 1/2 inch. So just use the lines on your machine. And I'm just going to stop at the pin. I'm going to back stitch and forward stitch and back stitch. Okay, so now we're going to clip our threads. Make sure that's nice and beautiful and neat. This is going to be so stunning. And I'm actually about to put it on the mannequin for you. Are you going to be excited to see this dress on the mannequin? This is going to be so pretty. Okay, so I'm going to walk over to the mannequin. If you can see, this is, I store the back where I'm sewing. Is this back area is where I'm sewing. Store mannequins everywhere. I'm going to put this, look at this. I'm going to put it on this mannequin up here. Right now, the dress that's on this mannequin says, don't text your ex. Just solid advice for everybody. Let me change this mannequin. She has waist beats on. I'm going to take this off her. Take this whole look off her. So that you guys can see what I have been sewing. All right, now hopefully I can get this, did this pause or something? Okay, there we go. Hopefully I can get these hips. This mannequin has hips. I'm gonna see, or maybe if I take, well, all right, let's, yeah, I'm gonna take her off of the pole first and put the dress on the pole. That way, her hips don't interfere. Can you see me putting, you probably can't see me putting this dress on the pole, but it's okay. As long as you can see me put it on the mannequin. Oh my goodness. All right, let's put the dress on the pole first. And there's that. Okay, now we're going to put the mannequin back on the pole. Okay, here she is back on the pole, and I'm just making that tighter and unscrewing that. Okay, and now I need to lift up the dress and put it on the mannequin body. I think this will be good, you guys. Trying to get it. I should probably put my phone. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can set my phone over here. That way y'all can really see. Okay. All right, now let's see if you can see. I'm putting the dress that I was making on the mannequin. I'm trying to set up my phone that way y'all can see me setting it up. Hopefully y'all can see okay. Leave a message in the comments if you can't, but okay. So now I'm going to pull the sleeve inside out. Remember how I said we did this one shoulder? All right. Man, we getting somewhere, you guys. Oh, it looks so pretty. Okay. So remember I said the zipper is going to be over here. So right now there's no zipper in because I want to see how it looks on the manicure first. And now I'm just pinning it. Pinning where the zipper would be. So that that is nice and closed up. Alright, now what I have to do from here is add individual lace pieces in here. Should I turn down the background music? Hold on.
Dawn Platinum removes 99% of grease. It's the GOAT. And that's coming from a duck. The better grease getter.
Okay. Alright, what do you guys think? Do you like it? Do you love it? So like I said, I have to put like leaves and beading over the important private areas. But overall, matter of fact, let me turn the mannequin around because the lighting at this angle is not it. So let me put it at this angle so you can see. Okay, so now that we made this, you can see the one shoulder dress. This is the sleeve beading. Came out beautiful. This all I have to do by hand. So I'm adding black lace beading into the boob areas. But look at this gorgeous dress so far. Okay. The fabric makes everything, honestly. Like the print on here is so stunning. Look at this tapestry and this hem. Like this is going to be midi length, so about mid calf. That lace detail on the bottom of the dress is stunning. This is a little twisted, so it doesn't look fully centered, but it is fully centered. But this is how this is looking so far. She's actually going to have a floral kind of satin flower big thing on her shoulder. So that will be from there. If you want to see me make that by hand, let me know. Also, I'm going to do another video where I hand embroider the other leaflet pieces over here. But yeah, beautiful and stunning so far. And the reason why the waist is so snatched the way it is because of those darts that I put in. You can't even see them. It's a dart here and it's a dart here in the front and back. Okay, and that's really what's bringing that waistline in beautifully on this lace, because this lace does not have much stretch. But all right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Basics of me at the sewing machine putting this gorgeous gown together. I will see you in the next video. Bye. Now somebody gonna have to tell me how to end the chat. Hold on. Let me see. Did this button?